What's up everyone, this is White Pointer, bringing you a retrospective video where I look at an old game and see how it fares by today's standards. In this one, I'll be taking a look at a game that's often considered to be not only one of the best GameCube games, but one of the best games of all time, Metroid Prime. Created by Retro Studios and originally released in 2002 on the GameCube, it was re-released as part of the Metroid Prime Trilogy compilation disc on the Wii in 2009, with updated controls and a fresher coat of paint. The Trilogy compilation was released again on the Wii U shop in 2015. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be looking at the Metroid Prime Trilogy version. With Metroid Prime 4 confirmed for the Nintendo Switch, now is as good a time as any to revisit this game. How does it stack up in 2018? Let's get right to it and find out! In Metroid Prime, you play as interstellar bounty hunter Samus Aran. Set between the events of the original Metroid and Metroid 2, Samus responds to a distress signal on a vessel in orbit around the planet Talon 4. She finds an unwelcome familiar foe on the ship, and after her suit is damaged, is forced to descend to the planet to continue tracking him on foot. From here, the game doesn't really force any story on you, with the player needing to slowly discover the history of the planet, the former inhabitants, what the space pirates are doing, and how the ancient Chozo race fits into it all on their own. Little snippets of the story are drip-fed to the player as they scan various murals, computers, and writings. In this sense, some of the lore can be lost on the player, but it also gives you an incentive to search for these clues during the journey. The game gradually builds until your inevitable battle with Ridley, which isn't a spoiler as it's very obvious from the start of the game that it will happen eventually. It's methodical and keeps you interested the whole way through. Of course, the series' titular Metroids make an appearance as well, but why are they different somehow? What is this phase-on stuff, and why are the space pirates seemingly so interested in it? The game answers some of these kinds of questions, but leaves others open, dangling the carrot in front of our eyes for sequels. The game plays very much like a traditional Metroid game. When Samus arrives on Talon 4, she's lost almost all of her suit powers and needs to venture out into the alien world alone to reacquire them. Much of the world is initially inaccessible, and once you find a new upgrade, you need to backtrack to discover that areas you once couldn't reach can now be traversed. The game is split into a number of different areas with their own unique aesthetics, enemies, and challenges. It's a formula the series has followed since its inception, and is recognised as one of the pioneers of the concept, hence the term Metroidvania. The big difference in Metroid Prime, of course, is that it's the first game in the series to be in 3D, and to be played from a first-person perspective. Many fans were initially very skeptical about the concept of a 3D first-person Metroid game, especially when it was revealed that American developer Retro Studios was handling the development of the game, and not Nintendo themselves. Nintendo still kept a watchful eye over the project though, and were constantly bouncing ideas back and forth with the development team, making it feel like a combined effort. The end result can't be argued though, as the fears of fans were put well and truly to rest. Metroid Prime turned out to be outstanding. The GameCube original used non-traditional first-person controls, which was a brilliant decision as it was a non-traditional first-person game. It was not a twin-stick shooter. It wasn't a mindless run and gunner, as the game combined platforming and puzzle solving with an emphasis on exploration. The Wii version did away with the original GameCube controls in favour of using the Wiimote controls introduced in Metroid Prime 3, but the game doesn't lose its identity as a result. It's just a slightly different, if not slightly refined experience. It still doesn't really play like a normal console shooter. This may be seen as a drawback to some players, but not to me. I think it's one of the game's biggest strengths. Samus can lock onto enemies and fire away while rapidly strafing around them. She can scan the more powerful enemies to detect weak spots to target, and she can switch her powerful beam weapons or various visors on the fly to quickly adapt to changing situations. The iconic Morph Ball makes a return as well, and thankfully you're not forced to endure a vomit-inducing first-person Morph Ball mode. Instead, the game switches out to a third-person view and seamlessly transitions back to first-person when you morph out. Many of the historical upgrades and abilities that Samus possessed in 2D successfully made the transition to 3D, and some new ones were even introduced, such as the boost ball that allows Samus to scale natural half-pipes. Every time you find a new enhancement, you can backtrack to find stuff you couldn't access before, which adds to the excitement of exploring new areas. The map plays a pivotal role too, and it's not just a simple 2D map either. It's a 3D map that can display all of the vital information, and can be rotated and moved into any position a player wants in order to get their bearings. As you'll need to rely on the map quite often, this is a very good thing. Regardless of whether you're playing on GameCube or Wii, the game is incredibly fluid and plays wonderfully. Samus feels powerful in combat because she is powerful, allowing the player to really absorb the atmosphere the game creates and focus on the exploration, which has always been the main drawcard of the series. Speedrunners were equally also rejoicing, as the sequence breaks the series was well known for were still possible as well. Overall, everything combines to make a package that's still a joy to play. The GameCube is sometimes underrated in terms of its graphical performance. It sat squarely between the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox in this category, and Metroid Prime really pushed the limits of the system. Metroid Prime 2 would go on to push the limits even further, but we won't go into that right now. It looked incredible at the time, and still looks pretty good even now. The Wii port gave it a little bit of a makeover, but nothing too drastic. The game now ran in widescreen, textures were upgraded, and new lighting effects were added. Despite the fact technology has improved a lot since then, the art style means the game still looks good, and still features some incredible effects and attention to detail. Visibility in water is poor until you find appropriate suit upgrades. Water rolls off Samus's visor as she surfaces from some underwater exploration. Bug guts splat on her visor, obscuring her vision. Some electrical enemies interfere with the visor's systems, causing it to go completely static and block vision completely. You can see a reflection of Samus's eyes in her visor when a bright flash happens nearby. You can see the heat signatures of enemies when using the thermal visor. Her arm cannon changes shape depending on the selected weapon. Some enemies will shake uncontrollably after being hit by the jolt of the electrical wave beam. The environment can literally change around you as you solve puzzles. Weather effects like rain and snow are present and react realistically when they hit Samus's visor and arm cannon. The closer you look, the more detail you'll notice. It really can't be understated just how much of a technical achievement the game really is. There's plenty of other little details I'm not mentioning here, as I don't want to spoil everything. You really need to experience it for yourself. The sound design is equally impressive. The music does an incredible job of setting the tone and atmosphere for each unique area, combining some remixes of traditional tunes and brand new ones. It kicks into high gear when there's danger afoot, and boss fight music is suitably epic. There's an incredible variety from the dense jungle-like locale of the Talon overworld to the peaceful snow-covered Phandrana drifts. Every enemy makes a unique sound. Every weapon makes a unique sound. The space pirates sound suitably menacing. Even the upgrades and power-ups you find scattered around the world make a unique sound that allows you to locate them a little easier. It all just rolls together so incredibly well that it makes you believe that this alien planet of Talon 4 really could exist. If there's one criticism that can be levelled at the game, and it really is only minor in the grand scheme of things, it's the fetch quest that's forced onto the player late in the adventure. The player is required to backtrack to every area they have previously visited, sometimes right to the furthest reaches of the map, in order to track down 12 artifacts that are required to access the final area. By the time it happens, it's almost the end of the game, so it isn't too bad, and you're compelled to do it, but still introduces some tedious busy work that breaks the flow of the game somewhat. The addition of a hint system that points the player in the right direction may be seen as a bad thing to some Metroid purists out there, but it never outright tells you what you need to do or how you're supposed to do it, and it can be turned off if you really don't want it at all and prefer to explore without any assistance. So is Metroid Prime still worth playing? Absolutely! It's still heralded as one of the best games ever made for a reason. 3D adventure gaming just doesn't get much better than this. It truly is Metroid in 3D. Don't go into this game expecting to just rambo into constant battles. It's not your typical first-person shooter. In fact, it's not really a first-person shooter at all, despite the fact it's played in first person and you shoot things. It's a hybrid of shooting, platforming, puzzle solving and exploration, and just comes together brilliantly to create an experience you likely won't forget. Pretty much any kind of gamer will enjoy this game, so I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I would also recommend you check out its two fantastic sequels as well, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Playing the entire trilogy is definitely worth it. Metroid Prime though is one of those games that deserves all the praise it gets, and if you haven't played it for yourself to see what all the hype is about, you really should fix that. Have you played Metroid Prime yourself? Do you agree with my assessments? I'd love to hear your opinions. Drop me some comments below and give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with my content. Thanks for watching!